Are you tired of building CONSORT flow diagrams from scratch for your studies? Have you downloaded diagram templates from the EQUATOR network or elsewhere and then spent hours chasing boxes and arrows around a Word document? Do you just wish that you had a solid template that made creating CONSORT diagrams faster and easier? Then this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to show you how I've used PowerPoint to create CONSORT diagrams for clinical studies much faster and easier than using Word. And if we haven't met, hello, my name is Crystal. I'm a trained biomedical scientist turned clinical researcher and now scientific and medical editor. Since 2011, I've collaborated with researchers to publish in high-impact journals and secure federal and foundation funding. And I've trained thousands of researchers and other professional writers all over the world to equip them with the principles, resources, and systems that they need to write well. And since 2021, I've been running the Redwood Ink Academy, where hundreds of researchers and professional writers have taken our courses to hone their writing skills with lots of incredible success stories. And actually, I gave a workshop on creating CONSORT diagrams in the Academy, and my students found it so helpful that I decided to create this video for you. So in case you'd like to check out the Academy, I'll add a link to the description box. But let's dive into CONSORT flow diagrams. So what is a CONSORT flow diagram? In case you're not familiar, CONSORT means Consolidated Standards of Reporting Trials. And it's part of research reporting guidelines that have been developed by the EQUATOR network. And in case you're not familiar with this network, EQUATOR stands for Enhancing the Quality and Transparency of Health Research. I'll leave a link in the description box so that you can learn more about the network. But basically, all published clinical trials must include a CONSORT flow diagram. And this diagram is a visual representation of participant flow through a clinical trial, from enrollment to allocation to follow-up to analysis. And there are certain requirements that have to be included that I'm not going to cover, but I will leave a link in the description box so that you can get those guidelines. And you can also download a template from the EQUATOR network. I'll add a link to the description box, but I'm going to be honest, I don't recommend it because it's in a Word document. And so I'm going to show you what I think is a better way, but let's go ahead and take a look at the document that you would download from the EQUATOR network so that I can explain to you some of the challenges that I have with this document. So this is the template that you can download from the EQUATOR network. And on first look, it's not too bad. I'll admit I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm working on that and striving for excellence rather than perfectionism. But there are some things visually that I don't like about this template and also functionally in revising it that I have a hard time with. So visually, I have a hard time with the inconsistencies. So we have squared boxes and we have curved boxes. And also the arrows. So you can see they're not connected. There's gaps here. The corners aren't finished. I find the shadow a little bit distracting, if I'm going to be honest. This arrow points into the box and this one doesn't. So I find that visually it's not very appealing. Also, if you want to change something, so say I need to add more details to this box. Well, if I come into this box and I edit the text, say I need to add another group, and I hit enter and I go to add another group in here, it doesn't even show up in that case. Or how about if we go down to this one, we go to add another group. And so I start adding the words another group and it's not in there. So you have to move the box down and now your arrows aren't right. So then you have to adjust your arrow and it's moving in weird ways. You can't align it properly. So I find that a little bit frustrating. And then whenever you move a box, oh, now you have to move your arrow again. So I don't care for this template. Also, the CONSORT guidelines were updated this year in 2025. And the format is a little bit different. So now rather than having the n equals at the end, you put the number at the beginning. And I'll show you that. But they have not updated this flow diagram to match those recommendations. So hopefully that's something that they'll do. But I'm going to give you something that I think is better and will be much easier and faster for you to use. So what I'm going to do is show you how I would create this diagram in PowerPoint. I'm going to show you from scratch so that you can build it on your own. But I will also say that I will have a template for you that you can download in the description box. But I think it's great to stick around and watch how I do it, because you will likely need to change it to match your study. And so that way you know how to do that. So let's hop on over into a blank PowerPoint and we can start building from scratch. So I had a little glitch with my camera, so you won't see me for the next few minutes, but I will be back on the screen momentarily. Okay, so here we have a blank PowerPoint template. And one thing that I have done is change the dimensions of the template so that it's the same as a standard piece of paper. This will already be done in the template that you would download if you'd like, but I'll show you how to change that in case it's something that you want to do. I will add that I am on a Mac, so things might look a little bit different if you are on a PC, but the process is the same. So if you need to change the dimensions of your slides, you just go to the Design tab, and then you come over to the slide size, and you click on that, and then go to Page Setup, and then you can change the dimensions to whatever you wish. In this case, I have it as a standard page because that's how the manuscript would be printed, and so that way I can try to keep the format in a similar style as would be printed on a page. So I'm going to leave that alone, but once you're done, you just click OK and it will adjust. And so then now we want to create the consort diagram. Now you might be thinking, well, isn't the easiest thing to do just to hop over to Insert and go to Smart Art and then go to the hierarchy and use one of these? So I have tried that in the hopes that it would work well, and I have found that I don't get the functionality and the flexibility that I like. Of course, I would encourage you to experiment with it so that you can learn for yourself whether that's something that you like. But I recommend just building from scratch. And in reality, with the template that you'll get from me, you won't be building from scratch, so that will make it a lot easier. Okay, so then to start, what we want to do is create the first text box. So we go over to Insert, we go to Text Box, click on that, and then draw a box. It can be any size at this point. And then the new style, we would have number and then assessed for eligibility. And I'm going to change this font. So I'm going to go back to Home to change the font. Aptos is the default font in PowerPoint now. I prefer Helvetica. That's also a Mac specific font. So in a PC, we'll just go with Arial because that would be what you would likely find in a PC. Of course, you will want to use whatever the journal requests. My defaults are Helvetica and Arial. So we're going to change the font type. We're going to change the size too. We're just going to change it to 11. So it's what it would be on a printed page. And then the new style for a consort diagram is to bold the beginning number. And so this number would just be replaced with however many people you assessed for eligibility, 125 people, whatever it might be. And so this would be the starting box on your consort template. I'm also going to center that so that it looks nice, and then I'm going to adjust the box size to fit the size of the text. And you can do that just by grabbing this box and, you can change the size like this. So I do it until it just moves into 2 lines, and then I make it a little bit wider, and then I know it fits really well. And then what I'm going to do is I want to center it on the page. And the great thing about PowerPoint is it has these built-in arrows. So if I start to move this over, you're going to see that I'm going to get a red line that drops down. That is the center. As an alternative, I'll move this out of the way again. You can use the Arrange feature up here. So if I click on Arrange and I go to Align and I make sure it's aligned to slide and then click Center, and it will center that. And honestly, in the beginning, when you're first creating this, just create the boxes. Don't worry too much about centering because we're going to do all of that. But I wanted to show you, at least initially, 2 features that you can use to make the adjustments with those different alignments. So then we are going to need other boxes. So as another box, I'm just going to copy and paste this one. So I'm using the keyboard shortcuts to copy and paste it. And then I'm going to have, the reasons why patients would be excluded. So we're going to say number of excluded. And in this case, I want it to be left aligned. It's going to look a little bit nicer. And then you're going to want to list, the reasons for exclusion. So I'm going to make this easy on myself here and just do, we'll say there's 2 categories to keep it simple. And we're going to say that these people did not meet the inclusion criteria. And then for these ones, we'll say they declined to participate. And then, we'll add one other group in here that we'll just call other reasons. And you would list those specifically for your particular situation. Get my fingers to work here. Okay, so other reasons. Now, if you notice the alignment's a little off, we have criteria down here. So we could drag that box out to where it fits and watch, it's going to automatically resize, which is fantastic. So if I decide that I need to add another line, the box moves down, right? And it didn't do that in Word. So that makes that so much easier. So now that the other thing that we can do is also, if let's say we need to have it on 2 lines and the box is this size, what we can do is highlight this text, and then up here in the ruler, we can adjust the placement. So I'm going to choose it to align with the unbolded part. So I move the whole thing, and then I move the little one on the top, and that will realign it. And so now it looks really nice. Oh, and an important thing that I overlooked was you want to add borders to these boxes. So what I will do is highlight the box, go up to shape outline. I'm going to use black as the standard. I'm also going to use 1 point. Let's see, it's at 3/4 point. I'm going to use 1 point. And so now it has a nice clean outline. I'm going to do the same thing here with this outline. And then if you do this with your initial box, then it will, every time you copy and paste it, it will have that. So ideally you do that with the first box, but again, you're going to have a template to make it a lot easier for you. So now we would need to create all the other boxes for the different categories, and I don't want to have you sit here and watch me do that, so I'm going to wave a magic wand here really quick to come up to a draft that has all of the boxes that we're going to need, and then I'll show you how to do the arrows. Okay, so now we have all of the boxes that we're going to need for the consort diagram. Now, right now, they're all nice and aligned, but let's say you created all the boxes and they're a bit of a mess. So we'll go ahead and we'll move this box over here and, this one, let's see, we've got this one centered. Let's move this one over here, right? So let's say it's a little bit messy. We can easily align them using that alignment feature that I showed before. So say we want these 2 centered. So then we're going to select them both, go up to arrange, and then we're going to align. We're going to hit center. They're aligned to selected objects right now though, and you want them to be aligned to slide. So we align them to slide and then go back, align center, and now they are centered on the page. Now, I also want these 3 that I'm selecting to be aligned. And so what I'm going to do is select those and then go back to arrange, align, and here I don't want to align them to the slide, I want to align them to each other. So I'm going to go to align selected objects and then back to arrange, align, and then I'm going to select center, and they're going to align with themselves. Now, these are not aligned according to these over here. So basically, I want the same distance on this side as I have on this side. And what I found to be a bit easier here is to select these. So in this case, this box is a little bit shorter than these 2 boxes. And so I want to move these boxes over. I'm okay with this one being in a little bit, but these ones I want aligned with the same distance on this side. And so I will just select them both and grab them and slowly move them over. You can see all these red lines on the page showing me what boxes it's aligning with. And this is a really great feature that PowerPoint has not always had. So I can keep moving it over, and then eventually see the little red arrows that just popped up there to show that the distance is the same on either side. So that's where I want this to line up. So I'm going to unclick, and now they are there. And I think in this case, I'm going to shrink this one up a little bit. And this all depends on how you want it to look. You could have it line up to the edge. It's just all going to depend on how big the boxes are and what the text is and all those different details. But just try to line things up nicely so that they look really good. Okay, now for the arrows. And this is where I have really found this to be valuable, to do this in PowerPoint versus Word. So to add an arrow, let's say we need an arrow to go from assessed for eligibility to randomized. And so we're going to go up to Shapes, and we're going to click the straight arrow, and then just draw a line anywhere. That's fine. And we're just going to format the arrow so it's what we want. So because the edges of the box were 1 point, I'm going to do the same thing with the arrow. You could modify that if you wish. So I'm going to do the same width and also the same color. So we're going to make that the same black. And then we could sit here and say, okay, I gotta try to get this to align, right? And is it aligning? And it can get a little bit frustrating. So I'm going to show you a great trick. So you see this little green circle? If I grab that circle and move up to the box, do you see that green circle that just popped up around the box? There's now 4 of them around the box. If I connect the end to that box, not over here, but to that box, it will now be connected to the object, right? So anywhere I move this box, that arrow will go. It gets better. Now we're going to take the other end, and we're going to connect it to this box, to the same green circle, not over here, same green circle. Now the benefit is it is now aligned. It's nice and straight. It's also connected to this box. So it will keep those boxes connected no matter where you move the box to, which is so incredibly helpful. And even if you use the alignment tool, so I'll move this box over here, and then say I want it to be centered with this one on the page. I'm going to select both the boxes. You don't even have to worry about the arrow. We're going to go to align, make sure it's to slide, and then align to center, and it moved it with the arrow, which is amazing. It's amazing. Okay, now let's say that we need to create the arrow to go to this box. So if you remember from the template, I'm going to copy and paste this arrow just to make it a little bit easier. So we would change the orientation. So we could come here and say, okay, I gotta get this to line up and trying to make it fit, and is it over? Is it just right? And zoom in. We don't have to do any of that. So I'm going to delete this arrow because we're going to use a different style arrow. So we're going to go up to Shapes, and we're going to this arrow right here, this little right angle, elbow arrow corrector. I didn't know how to name. So we're going to click on that, and we're just going to draw it random again. And we're going to format it first. So we're going to do 1 point, the same as the other one. We're going to do black, the same as the other one. We're going to use that same strategy of connecting that we did for the straight arrow. So I'm going to take this end, and I'm going to connect it to the same exact spot, because you can connect more than one. And then see how it automatically formatted it like that? And then I'm going to grab this end and connect it to this box. And now they're connected. Anywhere I move this box, that arrow will move. And you don't have to worry about making sure that it aligns. It's all there. And it will do the same thing. So here with our randomized group, and then we have these 2 different groups that the participants might be randomized to. So we need different types of arrows. Sometimes I'll see them where they're just straight lines that go like this, but I'm going to show you something really cool, and we're going to use that same arrow. So I'm going to copy and paste, save myself those extra formatting steps. And I will bring this down here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to connect this box here. See how the shape changed? Now I'm going to grab this end. I'm going to connect it to this box. So I'm clicking on the ends, and I'm holding it with the mouse until I get to the circle. And now they're connected. And see that beautiful line, no gap, nice and straight right angle. And anywhere I move this box, it's going to go with it. It doesn't matter where I move it. It will adjust that arrow. So it's amazing. And I can do the same thing. I'm going to copy and paste the same arrow. I'm going to connect it on this end. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to connect it on this end. And look at how beautiful that is. Everything is connected nicely. Anywhere I move the box, it's going to make that adjustment. It's really amazing. And so there are also other great features that I'm going to show you, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the rest of the arrows. I'm not going to make you wait while I do that. So I'm going to wave a magic wand and then we'll come back and I will show you some other things that you can do. Okay, so now we have all of the boxes and all of the arrows, and visually it looks great. So we have nice right angles on our arrows. All the arrows are the same. They're all connected at the joints. If we need to move a box for some reason, the arrows automatically move so that if we need to make adjustments, things will be so much easier to fix. So for example, say I need to add another group down to this box down here. So I just hit enter and I add a group and the box automatically adjusts. Now this is an easy case. If we come up here, things might get a little more complex, but the important thing is that the box still automatically adjusts, which it didn't in that Word template. So if I add that line in, you see the box automatically moves. Now the thing that we're running into is the distance between these two boxes is smaller than these two boxes. So I need to select this box. I'm going to click it and I'm going to drag it up. And so now you can see the little arrows on the top, the little red arrows to the right that show that it's equal distance between this box and this box. And so that's helpful. However, the distance is not the same between these two boxes and these two boxes. And so I'm going to just grab it and drag it up further, and you'll start to see now, do you see where the red arrows align? One is between the box that I have and the number of randomized. And then if you look down, you'll see there's more red boxes. So that shows that the space underneath the box that I'm grabbing is the same. So I'm going to leave that box there, and now I'm going to drag this box and move it up so it's the equal distance to down here. So sometimes you have to think a little bit strategically about the order that you're moving things, but even still, it is so much faster and easier. So I'm going to click this, I'm going to drag it up until I hit, oh, there it is right there. See where those red arrows pop up? And then I let it go, and now everything is aligned. And so if you then need to add other groups into here, it's a lot easier to make adjustments because all the arrows are connected. And if you need to move an arrow at some point, you just click on that arrow and then you can drag it over to a different box if you need to. So everything is adjustable, but it's all connected and it makes things so much easier. So there is a template for this in the description box that you can download for free. And hopefully that's helpful for you. However, you might be wondering at this point, well, this is in PowerPoint. How do I get this into a Word document? So what I recommend doing for that is to group everything together, because every once in a while I'll save something and it's not grouped and something weird happens. So I recommend just grouping everything. So what I do is I just bring my mouse over to outside of the slide, and then I click and I hold and drag over everything. And that way I know that I'm going to get all the little arrows and things. And then once everything is selected, I just go up to arrange and then to group. And now everything is grouped together. And then to save this as a picture, I then will right click, not in this space. See how I have the black arrow? It won't work here. So you have to go and move the cursor over an element to where it turns into that 4-point arrow. And then you right click and you go to save as picture. And then you have the option to save it as a PNG, a JPEG, even a PDF, other types of files. I recommend a PNG. It tends to be a little bit cleaner. Check with the journal. They likely have a requirement that's either PNG or JPEG. And then you can save it wherever you need to save it and then insert it into the Word document. So that is basically how you create it and how you can add it to your document. So that's my strategy for creating a CONSORT flow diagram in PowerPoint that is much faster and easier than working in Word. At some point, you will probably be able to use AI to create these diagrams, but we are not there yet for a whole host of reasons that I'll get into in another video. But if you liked this video, you might also like this one about the best order to draft sections of a research manuscript. And if there's something in particular that you'd like to learn more about, let me know in the comments. I create these videos for you, so I want to make sure that I'm creating something that you will find valuable. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in the next video.